Here are the pros and cons so far of having switched to electric car versus a gas car. This is a train of thought video. It's a vlog, so pardon me, I'm not going to be editing much, so please bear with me. And bear with me with the construction. So I guess that's one of the cons. Depending on where your EV stations to charge are located in the public, you might be next to a construction site. You might be in a gas station or convenience store on the side of the highway with nothing to do besides stay in your car for 20 to 40 minutes watching this video or watching Rick and Morty reruns or something like that on the Hulu app. So, or reading a book. So make sure you always bring a book. Make sure your phone's always charged to watch YouTube videos and TV shows and other stuff. So that's one of the cons, is sometimes the location. But the pro to that, though, is sometimes you go to new places that you never normally would have gone to, such as parking in that park or that mall or visiting that store that you've never visited. So that's one of them. Let me just move over here, maybe slightly more away from the construction over there. Another is speed. The faster the charge, the more it costs money. That's just the blanket statement. So the cheaper, the slower. So if you were charging at home, it might be 11 to 22 hours to charge your car, whereas a level 2 AC charging might be 1 to 2 hours. Whereas like this one, if you wanted to go from 80% to 100% at level 2 AC, such as this free public one charging right here, it would take like 4 hours or more. But with DC fast charging, now we're starting to get into the fast ones, like 120, like 150 to 350 kilowatt DC fast charging. Those literally from like 20 to 80% is like 20 minutes. And then from 80% to 100% is 20 minutes. But they cost 53 cents to 63 cents per kilowatt hour, which if you're just driving around the city is great. But here's another con. If you're driving on the highway, you actually lose mileage. So if you're driving a gas car right now, like any of these gas cars that you see before me, you know how highway mileage you get better? Well, with electric cars, you don't. They're really meant for stop and go city traffic or short suburban drives. Like our range with our 100 kilowatt battery on the Kia EV9 is about 280, 290 miles. Now, when we're driving around the suburbs, around the city, we get that mileage. Unless we run AC on full blast, in which case you lose a couple miles for the air conditioning or the heating. But just to show you an example, when we drove on the highway, like the 230 miles to drive around, we started out with a full tank at 270 miles, but we only got about 210 miles out of it. So we were actually 60 to 70 miles short for basically driving 80 miles per hour the whole time on the highway. So keep that in mind as well. So another con is the time. Let's say you fill up your gas car and you can drive 4 hours straight without stopping. Well, chances are, if you charge your electric car the whole way, unless you're getting an electric sedan, which it has like 330 mile range and you're able to drive 4 hours and still have many miles left over, chances are you're going to be stopping midway somewhere to charge, or close towards like either 80% into your trip you're charging, or 50% into your trip you're charging, or 20% into your trip you're charging. You do your due diligence and you check the apps to see where all the charging stations are and whether they are slow or fast, free or extra cost. You have to do your due diligence. It's not like gas where you just refuel and go and then there's a gas station where along the way or where you're going to be. No, you actually have to do your due diligence with electric cars, so you're not like stuck somewhere in the middle of nowhere with no battery, especially if in the dead of winter you're blasting your heat, or in the dead of summer and you're blasting your air conditioning. So that's another con, is the time it takes, because a 4 hour trip now takes like 5 hours, because you really have to stop for about 30 minutes to an hour somewhere to charge. So time, yes, you're saving on gas, gasoline costs, because in theory, if you're driving around the suburbs all the time and taking advantage of either free or cheap charging, you're essentially just driving your car around for free, minus the monthly payments or the depreciation or the wear and tear on your tires, the brakes, and any other wear and tear, and the insurance. But other than that, so there's that. One of the pros though is that it drives so smooth and it's very quiet. Like there's basically no noise coming out of this car at any given time at all unless you start driving, versus a gas car where the engine's constantly like going and or knocking and making their engine noise. So I guess the pro would be engine noise, cabin noise, and just the perks, bells and whistles of an electric car. One of the cons here is the bug splatter on the grill. I've noticed just about every single electric car where the grill is just flat here because it doesn't need to keep the engine cool anymore is filled with bugs because the grill is flat now, so it just collects all the bugs. I've noticed it's less bug splatter on sedans only because the front is smaller and skinnier, whereas on SUVs the front is bigger. So keep that in mind as well, that if you're the type of person to drive around a lot at night and or through bug infested areas, you do tend to get a lot of bug splatter on the front of your grill, unless you have an electric sedan, in which case maybe it's more aerodynamic, the bugs just fly over it. So that's something to keep in mind as well. And I guess you can call that a pro or a con if you have a gas powered car where all of the bugs just literally go on the grill instead. And then basically hidden in your grill are just a bunch of bugs, or they get disintegrated from the heat and stuff like that. The next pro and or con, it really depends on your situation, is the price. There is the stereotype that EVs or electric cars or tend to cost a little bit more than gas powered cars. But keep in mind, there is the $7,500 that the federal government gives you in terms of tax credits. But please look into your financial situation and talk with your CPA about whether you'll be whether you'll be qualifying for the full $7,500 tax credit or not, because I think there's some income thresholds. And there's also some stipulations such as the car needs to be made in America. And then depending on your state might also have some rebates. Like the state of Connecticut also gives $2,500 rebate for electric cars. But I think between the federal government and your local state government, there are some other stipulations such as the car needs to be made in America, because the Kia EV9 is made in Korea, like 98.5%, I think, if I remember correctly from the window sticker. It didn't qualify for any tax credit. Also, some of the tax credits, I think the $7,500 tax credit also only qualifies if your car is under $60,000, because the Kia EV9 starts at over $60,000 for anything worthwhile. I'm not talking about the rear wheel drive one that starts at $53,000. But like for the wind and the land, they all start at $60,000 and up. You most likely won't get that tax credit. So keep in mind, you're basically not getting your $7,000 to $10,000 rebate. So, which sucks, because if you get a Tesla Model Y that starts at like $44,000, you're essentially getting almost 7 to 10K off depending on your tax situation. So keep that in mind. Also, because Tesla's made in America, so keep that in mind. So keep that in mind as well. Like one of the cons, if on this full range the car gets like 210, 230 miles on like $40-50 worth of fast charge, that's bad, because like I could literally drive a Nissan, a Subaru, or that Mazda CX-5, which gets like 25 miles a gallon, fill that car up for $50 and get freaking 330 mile range on a full tank of gas on the highway for a super long road trip or something.